Imagine this. You're recognized, you're confident, you've spent decades in the public eye, and then one unexpected moment makes you pause, to reflect, to listen, to change everything. That moment came for Kate Garraway. What began as a game show appearance turned into a wake-up call, a diagnosis she never expected, a new chapter she's embracing. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we dive deep into how Kate's leap into the world of the celebrity traders ultimately led her to a self-discovery that many of us, especially those of us in our 60s, can relate to. Realizing it's not too late to ask big questions about our health, our purpose, our next act. Stay tuned because by the end of this video, you'll see how one woman's journey can light the path for all of us. Let's begin. Kate Garraway, a British broadcaster and TV personality, built a career over decades in television and radio. She became a familiar face in countless homes, known for her warm presence, her professionalism, and her resilience. For many in our generation, someone like Kate is more than a celebrity. She represents the idea of having worked hard, made your mark, and kept going. We all understand that journey. But underneath the polished exterior, Kate's life has had its share of storms, not least the long, difficult ordeal of her husband's illness, which we'll talk more about later. In stepping into the world of the celebrity traders, she faced something new. A competition-type reality show away from the usual studio lights where she had to break out of the familiar. That decision alone shows something, a willingness to risk comfort for discovery. And it set the stage for what came next. And it was in that unfamiliar territory, away from her comfort zone, that the first clue of change appeared. A small conversation, a moment of reflection that would grow into something far bigger. On the celebrity traders, Kate found herself among people she didn't know, in situations she didn't control. The cameras, the alliances, the betrayals, all of it removed her from the familiar routine of studio work and thrust her into a new frame of mind. During the filming, she struck up a conversation with fellow contestant Kat Burns, who openly spoke about living with both autism and ADHD. Kate listened. She noticed patterns and behaviors in Kat's life that echoed in her own. Here's the moment: talking, listening, reflecting. Suddenly, a line from the past began to wink at her. Could this apply to me? Kate said she has ADHD in the family and felt increasingly that some of the traits she'd lived with, the distractibility, the feeling of being a little different, perhaps weren't simply personality traits. They were signals of something real. And so the game show became more than entertainment. It became a mirror. But before we go further, because you might think, okay, so she suspects something, let's step back and see where she was in her life at that moment. The stresses, the background, the unseen toll. Behind the scenes, Kate's life has been far from easy. Her husband, Derek Draper, contracted COVID-19 in March 2020 and spent months in hospital with long-term damage. Kate became his carer, her world shifting from studio lights to hospital corridors, from presenting to parenting and worrying. She's spoken of how lonely and difficult that time was, how she rarely slept properly and felt the weight of caregiving pressing in. All those years of being the broadcaster also hid the human, the mother, the daughter, the woman exhausted. And physical signs began to show. A health scare of her own with chest pain and stress-related angina, an autoimmune thyroid condition that required medication. She was used to being the strong one, but the truth is, strength can sometimes mask silent signals that something more is going on. So when she stepped into that reality show, she wasn't just playing a game, she was carrying years of unseen strain. And here's where the story turns. From living with hidden strain to recognizing something hidden within. Because the game show gave Kate more than confrontation with contestants. It gave confrontation with self. What's remarkable is how Kate responded. After that conversation with Kat Burns, after recognizing parallels, she didn't dismiss it. She decided to investigate. She entered the diagnostic process for ADHD. She said publicly, "I'm in the process of an ADHD diagnosis. In fact, I think it's pretty clear I am." This wasn't a media stunt. It was a courageous move. At nearly 60, admitting you might have a lifelong neurodevelopmental condition is significant. It means rethinking past behaviors, memory issues, focus, daily patterns. For many in our age group, admitting to something like ADHD can feel strange, like, I made it this far, why now? But Kate's story shows us better late than never. What's important is the shift from suspecting to acting. She recognized patterns, sought professional input, and embraced curiosity rather than denial. Yet the journey didn't stop with diagnosis. Recognizing is one thing. The next step is changing, and that's where the real inspiration lies. This is the heart of the story. Once Kate began to acknowledge her probable ADHD, everything started to reframe. Her past decisions made sense, old frustrations got context, the exhausting caregiving years took on new perspective. Rather than seeing herself as simply coping, she began to see that maybe some of the coping was more about masking. For us, watching in her 60s, that's a powerful message. Our stories don't end at retirement age. The discoveries can come later. Kate's move to seek help, to adjust habits, to learn more about her brain sends a message: you are never too old to rewrite the script. And rewriting the script isn't just for her, it's for her children, her viewers, her public image. It's about legacy. It's about showing that vulnerability is strength. It's about inspiring others who have quietly thought, maybe I'm different. Because once you decide to explore, you open doors to understanding, peace, and perhaps more joy. And there's one more surprising twist, one that readers and viewers of Kate may not expect, but it ties the whole story together. Stay with me for this next piece. Here's the beautiful surprise. While the Celebrity Traders looked like a game show, it offered Kate something far more precious: a reset. Without the usual schedules, without the constant demands of broadcasting, she found space for reflection. She described a reset moment during filming. Time away from phones, from the usual rush, writing a letter to her past self, burning it in a symbolic act, recognizing that she had not processed her grief after Derek's passing. This moment wasn't in the tabloids, it was within. The show became the catalyst for something internal, acknowledging grief, acknowledging change, stepping into a new era. For viewers in their 60s, this resonates deeply. We know the feeling of life keeps happening and the risk of not stopping to ask, where am I now? What's next? Kate's story shows that even the unexpected, a few weeks on a reality competition, can become the door to healing. And when healing meets insight, transformation begins. But before we wrap up, let's consider why this matters, not just to Kate Garraway, but to us, because her story becomes our story. So, what are the takeaways for you, dear viewer, at this stage of life? First, don't underestimate the power of curiosity. Kate didn't assume that things were fine just because she had made it this far. She asked questions and acted. That's powerful. Second, life isn't on pause after 60. It evolves. Change might be a diagnosis, a loss, a new opportunity. And deciding to engage with that change is courageous. Third, self-care isn't selfish. For years, Kate cared for others. Now she's caring for herself. For many of us, the script of caregiver is so ingrained, but there comes a point when we must also care for our own inner life. Fourth, legacy matters. Kate's public moment with diagnosis invites others to speak up, to seek clarity, to live more authentically. That shows leadership. And finally, hope isn't naive. It's intentional. The idea that discovery and growth stop at a certain age is a myth. In fact, maturity may give us better tools: reflection, patience, wisdom. Kate's story shows that the next chapter can be the richest one. As we bring this to a close, let's pause on one final piece. A cliffhanger for you, something to take with you after this video ends. We don't yet know exactly what the final outcome of Kate's ADHD diagnosis process will be, and that uncertainty is part of its power. She's in the process. The transformation is unfolding. For all of us, that's an invitation. Your diagnosis may be literal, health-wise, or metaphorical, life-wise. What question will you allow yourself to ask? What story will you allow yourself to write right? Kate's next chapter is open, and yours can be too. Maybe you've been living with something unspoken, fatigue, memory blur, a sense of being just coping.